How do you build muscle and lose body fat at the same time? There's a few main things that you want to make sure that you're focusing on, so let's go over those. The first thing that you want to focus on is making sure that you're actually lifting weights. So in order to build muscle and lose body fat, and actually lose body fat and not muscle, we want to make sure that we're lifting weights and we're sending our body the signal that says, hey, hold on to this muscle, get rid of the body fat. So it's really, really important to not change your exercise routine when you're looking to lose body fat, especially if you're looking to maintain your muscle or build muscle. So a lot of people make the mistake thinking that, when they go on a diet or they go on a fat loss phase, that they should be switching up their exercise routine, doing less or, doing more cardio, but really that's not the case. If you want to make sure that you're, building muscle or at least maintaining your muscle while you're also losing body fat, you need to make sure that you are lifting and you're following a progressive program where you can progress week to week by making sure that you're, maybe lifting a little bit heavier, you're maybe doing another rep. These are all forms of progressive overload, which is super, super important to make sure that you are actually just doing a little bit more each week, which will in turn result in building muscle or at least maintaining muscle while you're losing body fat. So one of the biggest things if you want to lose body fat and build muscle or at least maintain your muscle is making sure that you're lifting weights and you're doing it in a way that is structured, smart, you're following a progressive program, you're focusing on being very intentional on what you're doing. So you're going into the gym and you're, paying attention to the exercises that you're doing. You're not just going in there and kind of going through random exercises. You're actually following a program. You're being, super diligent about what you're doing. You have good form, good technique. You're kind of checking all those boxes. That's going to be the number one thing to make sure that you're doing if you want to lose body fat and build muscle. Another thing that you want to make sure that you're paying attention to is that you're not going too deep in a calorie deficit. So we know that we have to be in a calorie deficit in order to lose body fat, but if we want to maintain or build as much muscle as possible while losing body fat, we have to make sure that we're not going too deep into a calorie deficit because that is going to hinder muscle growth and muscle maintenance. So, if you're just thinking about it practically, if you go too deep into a calorie deficit, you're going to have a lot less energy and fuel coming in. So you're not going to have enough energy for your workouts, right? You're not going to feel great during your workouts, so you're not going to work as hard, and that's going to kind of, stack itself over time, and that we don't want that to happen, right? So just making sure that you're not going too deep into a calorie deficit. Also realize that the deeper you go into a calorie deficit, that the less calories that you have coming in, the harder it is going to be to maintain your muscle mass or your lean body mass. So if you're looking to lose body fat and build muscle at the same time, just don't go too deep into a calorie deficit. Typically 10 to 15% deficit is going to be just where you need to be. Anything, 20% or beyond, 25% or beyond is going to be a little bit too aggressive, and that can risk loss of muscle mass. It can risk loss of just energy levels throughout the day, and you won't be able to train as hard to build that muscle or maintain that muscle. So just make sure that if you're looking to lose body fat and build muscle at the same time, that you're not going too deep into a calorie deficit and you can maintain your energy levels and therefore maintain your muscle mass. The next thing that you want to pay attention to if you're looking to lose body fat and build muscle or at least maintain muscle while you're losing body fat is eating enough protein. So protein is going to be essential. Protein is the building blocks of your muscles. So we need to make sure that we get enough protein throughout the day to ensure that you are, holding onto that muscle and building as much muscle as possible. So if you don't have enough protein coming in and you're, working hard in the gym, you're actually doing yourself a huge disservice because you need that protein to repair the muscle tissue to grow, right? So protein is super, super important. If you're not eating enough protein, you're just, again, doing yourself a huge disservice. So make sure you're getting enough protein. Typically, I recommend for most people a good range is between 0.8 and 1.2 grams per pound of body weight. That is a pretty big range. For most people, sticking around 0.8 to 1 gram per pound of body weight is a good place to start off. If you are overweight, if you have a lot of body fat to lose, around 1 gram per pound of ideal body weight is a way that you can start off, or you can just take your height in centimeters and use that as your starting point for grams per day. So height in centimeters would be, if you are 160 centimeters, 160 grams of protein on a daily basis. If you're looking for 1 gram per pound of body weight, that would just be, if you weigh 150 pounds, that would be 150 pounds per day. If you weigh 150 pounds, that would be 150 grams of protein per day. So there's some easy calculations you can make, but just making sure that you're getting enough protein is gonna be super, super beneficial. And again, protein is that's the building blocks of your muscles. So you need to make sure you're getting enough. And a little, beyond that, I would say that if your main goal is to make sure that you are, holding on to as much muscle as possible or building as much muscle as possible while losing body fat, is making sure that you're spreading your protein out throughout the day and getting a good amount of protein at each main meal. So typically I recommend for most people at least 25 grams of protein at the minimum in each meal, especially, your main meals of the day, especially post-workout meals. That's gonna be super important to make sure that you're getting enough of the essential amino acids to help repair the muscle that you've just broken down when you worked out. So the reason I say about 25 grams is the bare minimum is because we wanna make sure that we're getting enough of the essential amino acids, especially the branched chain amino acids, which are going to be important for muscle protein synthesis. And that's simply just your muscles growing. So muscle protein synthesis is the act that happens in your body where you are putting on new muscle tissue, you're repairing the muscle tissue that was broken down when you were working out. So making sure that you're getting enough essential amino acids. 25 grams is a good minimum for most people because that's going to ensure that you're getting enough of those essential amino acids, especially the BCAAs, like I mentioned. Leucine, isoleucine, and valine are the BCAAs, and those are super, super important for optimizing muscle protein synthesis. So getting 25 to 30 grams of protein in each major meal is going to be important for that, and that's going to allow you to hit what we call the leucine threshold. So this is a little bit nerdy, but leucine is one of the main amino acids that you need to kind of turn on the switch that says, hey, muscle protein synthesis, turn on. So leucine, you can kind of think of the BCAAs and leucine itself. I like to give this analogy of a car, turning on a car and a gas tank. So you need a key to turn the car on, right? So the key would be leucine. But if you don't have any gas in the tank, then the car's not gonna go anywhere. So the key is leucine, and the gas in the tank is all the other amino acids. You need all of them combined, but if you don't have enough leucine, you're not gonna hit that muscle protein synthesis. So making sure that you're around that 25 grams or above for your protein for each meal is gonna be important, and that's getting a little nitty gritty, but that's really, really important, especially if you wanna optimize muscle growth and optimize muscle retention while you're losing body fat. Last but not least, paying attention to sleep. So this is definitely not the least important thing. It's only last because it was the last thing I thought of on the list, but getting enough sleep is gonna be super, super important. We have tons of research that shows that lack of sleep can actually impair muscle growth. So if you're not sleeping enough, you are really doing yourself a disservice. It's something that sounds very, very simple, but I promise you that it's going to go a long way. So making sure that you're staying on top of your sleep, about 7 to 9 hours is kind of the range that we want to optimize for sleep. A little bit less, some people can go off a little bit less, some people a little bit more, but just making sure that you're paying attention to sleep is going to go a long way. So that is going to be kind of the last big thing to pay attention to if you want to build muscle and lose body fat at the same time. Those aren't the only things, but those are the main things that you should keep in mind, and those are gonna take you a long way. Thanks so much for watching. If you want to learn more about nutrition, fitness, or metabolic flexibility, you can check out our website, metflexlife.com. There you can find our podcast, MetFlex and Chill, our nutrition and exercise programs, our latest blog posts, free recipes, and much more.